Alright, since it's so nice out, been thinking about doing this video for a while. It's pretty much like everything wrong with my E36 M3 with 300,000 miles on it. This video is basically going to be like what to expect if you're shopping for a car like this, like such a high miles older car. What kind of stuff's going to be wrong with it, and if you're going to go check one out, stuff to look at. We'll start from the inside of the car, we'll go to the outside, pop the hood, and then we'll pull it in, jack it up, look at underneath of it, and see what everything's wrong with it. So just to start it off, I'll show you. The car has 268,000 miles on it right now. And the check engine light is on for O2 sensor, but that's just from my exhaust. We got to get around to putting a bung in it. First thing wrong on the interior with a lot of these cars is the radio is completely butchered. It had like some Sony head unit in it at one point. Somebody seemed like they tried to put a system in it, because the rear, when I did the coilovers, the rear speakers were like falling out and self-tapped in. If you're specifically looking for E36s, you're gonna find door cards are bad. Like that one, you can't really tell, but like the leather is all bubbled up. It has the carbon fiber inserts, which I'm not a fan of. It's not really something wrong with it. All this kind of stuff, like the glove box and all, which is gonna be hard to see, but like it's all falling apart. Like all the panels are falling apart. It's missing screws everywhere from somebody else taking everything apart. Handbrake doesn't really work. It's kind of like it'll hold the car, but I'm gonna count that as broken. We get problems with all these weather seals that are all cracking and peeling up, and it probably leaks water inside of it. I just don't pay attention to it enough. The Vaders are actually in pretty good condition for having so many miles on them. It kind of makes me wonder if they're original. Yeah, so definitely like fit and finish of the interior over the past 20, almost actually 30 years. It's taken some abuse. It's the door card hanging off. Common E36 problem. The sunroof is broken, it's off track, and I'm afraid to open it because I'm afraid it'll never close again. When I got it, it was like wedged up, and I was able to get it to close, and I have not messed with it since. Moving to the outside of the car, it's really not as bad as you would think for being so old and such high mileage. It does look like it had a respray at one point, so keep that in mind for the paint. When you're looking at these cars, I mean, you can usually tell like on the body lines and in the door jambs if the car's been resprayed or not. So that's going to be something that you got to decide if you're going to let it bother you. But this car specifically, it does have some rust. Being a Northeast car, it's got some rust right here on this corner, on the back quarter. So you can see that. This rust spot is common for E36s. You'll see a lot of them where like the whole quarter's going into the flare. But this one's just this little bubble. And for the price I paid for the car, it's like, that's nothing. It's got tint that's peeling all up, and somebody looks like they removed part of it and then gave up, and I don't know, I'll have to get rid of that too. This trunk right here has a little bit of rust on it, but luckily the trunk, you know, it's a removable, easy panel to replace if I wanted to. This door, this passenger door, is probably the worst rust on the car. So this door probably should be replaced, but like I said, I'm not a perfectionist and I'm not really worried about it. It's got some scratches in it, but you know, what can you expect for the car being that old? It does have some dings in it. It looks like somebody dropped something on the front of the car at some point. You got a nice gouge in this fender, and I'm talking like it's pretty bad. And then the hood's got some like deep gouges in it too, that it looks like somebody tried to dab with touch up, but it clearly didn't work that well. The front end in general is just pretty beat up, probably just rock chips and mileage. But I don't know if you can see it, but on my whole nose panel is all rock chipped all across the hood. You know, the trim's all beat up, the front lip's all beat up. But all that stuff is stuff that you have to expect with a car that has 268,000 miles on it. In my opinion, the exterior of this car is like really good for how old it is. As far as I know, it's the Northeast car its whole life. So the fact that like it still has floors in it, compared to like my red 328 IS that I had, I mean the carpet was like coming out of the bottom of the car because of how bad the floor was rotted. And this one, when we get it up in the air, I'll show you, the only like real rust I can see is in the battery tray in the trunk, which is super common. Now I'm gonna pop the hood and I'll talk about some of the issues that are under the hood. And I mean, when you're doing this kind of stuff and you're working on a tight budget and you're looking at these cars with, you know, 200,000-300,000 miles on them, you're gonna have to expect to do some work. So that's why, in my opinion, if you're looking for a project car, and it's gonna be your only car, I would not be looking at stuff like this. I'd be looking for way cleaner examples, because you're not gonna be able to get this car to work and back all the time, especially with some of the major repairs it'll need. It's gonna need to be down for like a couple days. It's not really the best choice for, you know, daily driver, first project car. Saw them on TikTok. It's not like that. It's not like people make it out to be. It's a lot more work than you think. Dealing with old cars and old trucks, that's the 100% the reason I just went out and bought my Hyundai. You can see at the end of the driveway. Is because I was tired of, like, you know, laying in my driveway at night trying to get my car ready to go to work. It's not like I'm trying to go to the racetrack or a car show. I'm just trying to go to work, and I'm laying under my truck trying to fix it. So that's my opinion on buying high mileage and older cars. They're awesome, but it's really not the best decision for a daily driver. So this is a USDM E36 M3, so I have an S50. Problems under the hood with this car is, one, it's got a massive oil leak. I'm not sure if it's been fixed and nobody cleaned it, because it doesn't seem to get any worse or better. The guy I bought this car off of told me that it's been rebuilt at some point, but like, I don't know how to believe that with no paperwork, so I'm gonna say no. So the problems under the hood are gonna be like, I should probably overhaul the cooling system fully, water pump, thermostat housing, thermostat, hoses, all that. I don't see any coolant leaks. The car's never overheated when I drove it, but it's just peace of mind. It has a aftermarket cold air intake. I mean, it's pretty much bone stock, which is like the reason I was really looking for this car. That's another thing I wanted to get at with these. I really try to shop bone stock. I mean, you don't really want to be dealing with other people's issues. I had those messes before, and it sucks. If you're gonna fucking butcher shit, you might as well do it yourself rather than try to figure out how somebody else butchered it. So now I'm just dealing with maintenance stuff. I'm trying to do, you know, I got oil leaks from my lines, my PCV lines, did the oil change, did spark plugs. I'll probably do coil packs. I'll probably do a valve cover gasket. I'll probably do an oil filter housing gasket, just for peace of mind. I'll probably, if you look in here, it's not too bad. It's not as bad as I've seen, but I do have a little bit of wiring mess pulled out from, I'm assuming, the install of the headlights at one point. I do belts and pulleys on it. This is just all stuff that you guys should be doing when you buy these cars. Don't go immediately shopping for turbo kits and coilovers. You should really be shopping for oil filters and air filters and tires. That's a big thing. I know it's like hard to resist buying some of the fun stuff, but you're gonna want to do this stuff first so you can actually drive it once you get to buying the fun stuff. Hood struts are also blown on this car, just like falls down randomly. When I first got the car, it had a few pop fuses. I replaced some fuses. That was the fix for my power windows not working. Also a very common problem with the E36s. When I close the hood, it doesn't always latch. No, at that time it did, but move some stuff out of the way in the garage. We'll pull it in, we'll jack it up, and we'll talk about everything that's wrong underneath of it. I'd say that's where the majority of the problems are with this car, just from wear and tear issues. And like bushings, bearings, stuff like that, it's gonna break, it's gonna go bad after a while. It's a wear and tear part. So I don't know if you can hear it from the video, but it does have an exhaust leak still, so we'll start with that. The rear of this car needs a full refresh. The sway bar links are all dry rotted and cracked out. Subframe bushings make noise like every E36 does. The LSD, from the limited driving I've done in this car, seems to be a little bit tired. Rear trailing arm bushings are shot in this car like every E36. You can't see it, but up top the rear sway bar, or the brake lines, are just super rusty and scary. That passenger side CV axle boot is blown apart. You can better see the battery box that rotted out, and they replaced it with fiberglass mat. The tires are completely worn. Next big thing with this car is that oil leak that has probably gone unattended for years, has now pretty much soaked the entire underside of the car. I don't know if you can see it that well, but I have a better video of it. Yeah, pretty much like all in there. The whole entire bottom side of the trans, where the whole undercarriage is coated in like coagulated oil. You can see that right in front of you right here. That tie rod boot's gone. Probably needs a full steering overhaul. Control arm bushings, ball joints, tie rods, everything. The internet today kind of makes it seem like, you know, like I'll just drive it wherever and, you know, all I did was put coilovers and wheels on it. But like that's not what you need to do to make a good car. I think it's a good car, but it's not a perfect car. I don't think this is like a lost cause or anything. I'll do all the maintenance work to it, but I think it's a little bit misleading on the internet when people like, it just makes it seem like they just buy one and then it's a perfect car. But yeah, if you guys have been subscribed, you know I have videos out on this car and doing work to it. But if you're new, it's not the only car on the channel. It won't be. I got Luke's Jetta, truck, whatever else we buy. So just make sure you subscribe, like the video, if you found it like useful, or you know, if you like seeing what a 300,000 mile M3 looks like underneath. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back with a new video, hopefully with Luke next time.